Hey guys, so for today's video, I'm going to be talking about epidural versus no epidural. Now, I have 3 kids. I've had them 3 different ways. So the first 2 I had vaginally, but with the first one I had no epidural, and with the second I did have an epidural. So I want to tell you what those experiences were like, compare the similarities as well as the differences, and hopefully I can help you make a decision on if you're pregnant and you're trying to figure out if you want to have an epidural or not. Hopefully I can help you kind of make that decision. Okay, so before I ever had children, I've always been kind of a hippie. I've always been very in touch with the divine feminine, and I was very excited to have my children. I wanted to do it completely naturally with as little assistance as possible. So I really wanted to do a home birth. I wanted no epidural, and I was proud to really, show my strength in that way. And so, with my first, who's he's gonna be 10 next week, the whole way through the pregnancy, I was saying I want to do a home birth, but my ex-husband was telling me, and understandably so, he was like, I'm afraid. I think that's too dangerous, And I know a lot of people have had wonderful experiences with home births. I'm not trying to discourage you from that at all. But I'm glad that I, humored my ex-husband and went to a hospital, because in this case, it was important. It saved my life and my son's life, because if we had had him at home, that would not have gone well. Okay, so and I was very adamant that I didn't have an epidural. And I told my ex-husband, I said, remind me if I'm in there and I'm in extreme pain, just try to talk me down from an epidural, okay? I don't want an epidural. And he was like, okay, but I just think you should get it, So I go in, and by the way, my son's birth was 6 hours from first contraction to out. Now, a lot of people hear that and they're like, wow, that's awesome. You were only in labor for 6 hours. It's not awesome because it's not safe. It's called precipitous labor, and it's basically my uterine contractions were so strong and forceful that it can actually get pretty dangerous. It puts the baby's heart, it puts a lot of stress on the baby, and it's just not good for your body to go through such traumatic, fast-paced labor, is what I was told. And also, I mean, there was a lot of rippage, okay? I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so 10 years ago, I was getting ready for bed, and I was playing the game Moxie on my phone, and I got my first contraction, and I knew it was not Braxton Hicks. I could tell this was it. I don't know how I knew. I guess I just knew it in my heart. And, and then the contractions were coming about 10 minutes apart. My ex-husband at the time, he had worked all day, and he had just fallen asleep. So I was like, well, I'm going to wait till it gets to be about 5 minutes apart, before I wake him up. Make sure he gets a few hours in. But it picked up, within half an hour, it picked up to about 5 minutes apart. And I was like, well, that's odd. That's pretty fast. And then it started getting pretty painful. So I took some Tylenol, ran a bath. I called labor and delivery, and they're like, take some Tylenol, run a bath. If it's still really painful, just go ahead and come in. And they also said, if it gets down to 3 minutes apart, get in here right away. I was like, okay. Take a Tylenol, get a hot bath. Ex-husband hears me drawing a bath and everything, and I had the timer, and I'm getting in the bath, and I'm just filling up the tub at this point, and it turned to 3 minutes apart. He was like, let's go, I don't care, let's go. And I was just like, I don't have anything to wear. And he was like, just get some stuff out of the dryer, let's go. We're not having this baby at home, So hurry up. And in the time it took us to drive to the hospital on base, which was 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away maybe, it was 2 minutes apart. So very fast. At this point, I was at that point where I was starting to really show it on the outside that I was in pain. But I guess, and I felt like I was nearly screaming. That's how I felt. I felt like I was really putting on a show here, not on purpose, but I felt like I was really making a scene, but apparently the people at labor and delivery did not think that I was in labor, and they said that I didn't look like I was in labor, and if I was in labor, I would know it. They were really snarky, and the staff there at that hospital were absolutely awful. It was horrible. With my other 2 kids, I had them at different hospitals, and I had great staff. This staff, mean and snarky. And they were just like, if you were in labor, you would know it. You wouldn't just be sitting there saying, ouch. you know? And I was like, okay, well, can you check me? And they checked me and they're like, you're at 1 centimeter. And they were just like really started like, oh, this lady is so dumb. She thinks she's in labor because she's having cramps, you know? And they insisted on discharging me. And I kept saying, no, I know I'm in labor. I know it. And they discharged me. And like, as soon as I like left the room to like, and grab my purse and everything, I was like, I can't walk. I cannot walk. Like, I literally cannot walk. Like, I think my baby's head was like pressing on a nerve or something because I literally could not take a step. So anyway, so my ex-husband like tells him, he's like, hey, she's not faking. Like I can tell she's in a lot of pain. You know, just trust me. You need to check her again. They checked me again, and I was 9, and this was over like a 4-hour period, like this whole time me being at the hospital, and I was at 9 centimeters, and they're like, oh no, okay, so like it came out of nowhere. They were like shocked. So they moved me into a delivery room, and I couldn't walk. I had to be like basically carried in there, and I was like, and I was in so much pain at this point where I was screaming through like I was breathing out screams, basically. It was so painful because it was happening so fast. The contractions were so fast and so forceful that I felt like, okay, so here's what it feels like. It literally feels like if you're a towel or a washcloth and that you're being like this right here. This is the top half of you. This is the bottom half of you. This is your stomach, your uterus. And it feels like this. You know, and it is so painful. So it felt like I was being wrung out like a towel. And I you know, and it's like I said, I went into this with the right attitude. I was really calm. I have a high tolerance for pain, but this was just knocking me on my ass, right? And so I was like, okay, I need an epidural. And they were just like, okay, well, we're gonna get the anesthesiologist down here. Just, you know, chill out, crazy lady. And so the anesthesiologist, he gets down there and he's talking to me. He's like, hey, I just need you to sign this form, you know, and everything before I go ahead and get started. And he was like super nice or whatever. But I was like, I don't care with the, like, you know, and I was like, just get it done. And he's like, no, I need you to sign this form. I was like, okay. So while he's reading it to me and I'm getting ready to sign, my OBGYN, which I didn't even know she was doing this somehow. Like when you're in this much labor, apparently you don't notice if somebody has their hand up you like a freaking puppet. But she was like, okay, nope, baby's coming right now. No time for epidural. And I was like, what? So they added epidural, which, you know, it's like, yeah, I had planned all along for that. But at that point, like I was going through so much pain that I was just like, oh man, if I'm in this much pain now and he hasn't even started coming out the birth canal, I'm in for a wild ride. So I didn't get the epidural, and I pushed 4 times and he came out. And it hurt really bad. Like I can't even tell you how bad it hurt. But it was over fast. And I was like, as soon as he was out, the pain just like went away, or at least it seemed like it did. And I won't go into all the details about, you know, falling in love with my baby and all that stuff, because I don't think you guys are here for that. But, you know, I just felt like, okay, I've seen videos of women giving birth and they're crying, they're screaming, everything like that. So I think, you know, it's like, okay, so I guess I basically just reacted the same way they do on TLC's A Baby Story or whatever. But it turned out that I ripped a lot and they had to put a lot of stitches in. So while that was happening, my OBGYN came in to talk to me, and she was like, hey, just wanted to tell you, you know, I know you really wanted to not have an epidural and you wanted to do everything as natural as possible and everything, and that you ended up asking for an epidural, and, you know, and she was like, I just wanted to let you know, like, she was like, you really exhibited a high pain tolerance. You did it without an epidural with precipitous labor. What you had was precipitous labor. And she explained to me that the contractions are a lot harder, and, you know, there can be really bad rips and stuff like that. And she said, you know, I just want to let you know, like, you killed it. Like, you had you demonstrated that you have a really high tolerance for pain. And she was just like, and don't feel bad that, you know, that you asked for an epidural or anything like that, you know. She was like, you did amazing, and, you know, it's tough what you went through, you know. It's worse pain than most people feel during labor. So you know, that definitely helped me feel better too, because I was kind of embarrassed. Like my pride was hurt a little bit, that I was just like, give me the epidural. You know, like you see in movies, you know, my pride was hurt a little bit. You know, it really helped me when she told me that. And then, but then I realized, like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like giving birth it's a miracle. Like you're making a person, you know, like, well, I mean, pregnancy really, you know, you're making the person, and you bring him into the world, like, you're a rock star for doing that. I mean, it's just like nobody should feel guilty for getting an epidural or any other method of giving birth. Like there's no, like, that's one of my big pet peeves, are people who are like, well, I would get an epidural, but like I care about my baby. You know, it's like, first of all, it's ridiculous to think that getting an epidural means you don't care about your baby. First of all, the epidural is not going to harm your baby in any way. Okay, it's extremely rare that there are difficulties from epidurals. I mean, you're more likely to have, difficulties, you know, from not having an epidural, such as, you know, like extreme heart palpitations and that sort of thing, which was exactly what was happening when I was giving birth to my son. Him and I, both of us, our hearts were just going crazy, going haywire. And I was having trouble breathing. They ended up putting an oxygen mask on me and everything. And the doctor actually told me, she was like, next time you have a child, you are likely to have precipitous labor with all of your children, you know, since you've had it before. And she was like, and I would recommend the epidural because it would be better for your heart, you know, and for your baby's heart. And also, it's good to have an epidural in place because if you, God forbid, have to have a C-section, it's so fast. They don't have to knock you out or anything like that. You've already got the epidural in. They can just go ahead and put the medication in to numb you from the waist down, and it's way quicker, way safer, all around. I'm gonna say it. I know people probably get pissed and offended or whatever, but I'm just saying, I think you should get the epidural. Okay, hold out for as long as you can, but you know, at some point when it's getting close to being, you know, if it's getting to be too, you know, where they might say it's too late, make sure you get it before then. Okay, so now with my daughter, you know, I knew before I even got pregnant with her, I knew if I were going to have any more children, I was going to get the epidural. So with my daughter, as soon as I started having contractions, and they were about 10 minutes apart, I also had precipitous labor with her. It was 6 hours exactly from beginning to end. I went into labor in the same time with her and had her at the same time. Had both my kids at 4 a.m. So I went into labor and delivery, and I had already told them, like, throughout the pregnancy, I was like, to let you know, I have precipitous labor. I will probably have precipitous labor with her, and I want to make sure that an epidural is, you know, ready to go pretty quickly, you know. So they were prepared. So as soon as I got in there, they were super nice ladies, had a different hospital, completely different staff. And by the way, the staff really does make a difference. So if you are a labor and delivery nurse or any kind of nurse, any kind of medical staff or anything like that in a hospital, please know that you make a huge difference. Your attitude, your kindness, and also, like, if you're mean, that makes a huge difference in somebody's birth experience. My husband just like peeked around the corner and it scared me for some reason. I don't know why. But it makes a huge difference. So please keep that in mind, you know. So my daughter, like I said, it was like 6 hours. So like as soon as I got in there, like, you want an epidural? And I was like, yeah, give me that epidural. So they gave it to me, and when it was time for her to come out, basically my husband made a joke and I laughed, and the laugh caused my water to break. And she was born like 20 minutes later, like within like 20 minutes, 2 to 4 pushes and she was out. And I really didn't, like, I swear I didn't feel like anything. Like the only thing I felt was like, right there at the end, right at the end, I felt, kind of like a muscle spasm going up here, like right there. I was feeling like a pulling kind of sensation, and it was right at the end, like when basically like they're adjusting the bed or whatever so the doctor can get in there and everything. That I felt that. I didn't even cry or anything. I was just like saying, ow, like it hurts, you know. And then during pushing, it only hurt at the last bit where they call it like the ring of fire when they're crowning, whatever. I felt kind of like when you pull a muscle in a way, like if you're working out and you kind of pull a muscle a little bit. I felt that. As soon as she was out, it was gone. It didn't have like a lasting effect. As far as, and yeah, she didn't come out dazed or anything like that. Like I've heard stories of people say that like their baby was like seemed dazed and confused and they blamed it on the epidural or something, but nope, she came out, she would, cried right away and everything. She was looking all around the room, looking at me, looking at everybody else, making noises and everything like that. Didn't have any medical issues or anything like that, healthy as can be. So it was a really great experience, neither of our hearts were jumping around or anything like that. Neither of us, were like losing oxygen or anything. It was a great experience. Out of all three of my kids, that was the perfect birth that everybody deserves. And then as far as healing from vaginal birth, it depends on like how bad, like what the injuries are. Okay, C-section, I'm going to do a whole nother video on C-sections in a couple of months whenever my third baby's birthday comes up, because that's a whole different ball game. But I would much rather go through the healing process from vaginal birth any day. Okay, that is not bad at all. It's now with my daughter, it was kind of like, with my son it was worse because I had really bad tears, but it still really wasn't too bad, With my daughter, it wasn't bad at all. It was basically like recovering from rough sex. Like if you had sex, like, I don't know if you've ever had sex for like an hour or so, and then the next day you're just like, oh my God, I'm so sore. That's what it felt like. Like seriously, that's as bad as it was. It really wasn't bad. And I'd ice it. I'm going to do a video on padsicles for you. I highly recommend that you make yourself some padsicles. That makes a huge difference. The only thing is, wait at least a month to have sex, okay? Like, with my daughter, I was like feeling so good. On the outside, it was like, it felt like everything was fine, because like when I would go to the bathroom and I would wipe or whatever, I wasn't feeling any pain, no bruising, no swelling or anything like that. But the inside took longer to heal. So, like whenever my daughter was 2.5, 3 weeks old, I wanted to have sex. So that's what I'm saying. Like, even though if you feel like you're up for it, you might not. Just listen to the doctors. Like they say to wait about 6 weeks. Yeah, wait about 6 weeks, because at like 2.5 to 3 weeks, whatever, I like begged my husband to have sex, and he finally gave in, and I was like, this was a mistake. I'm sorry. So I had to stop. It was very painful, and then it felt like I had to go through the healing process for like a little longer. So don't do that. It just don't. It's bad. And I really should have had self-control. I really shouldn't have like begged my husband to do that, because it hurt. It was awful. Like, so basically, like, you'll heal on the outside before you heal on the inside. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like I said, I'm gonna do a video on padsicles and postpartum healing, like my tips and tricks, because I've definitely figured out what works, what doesn't, and also there's like a lot of things that you don't think of, like just doesn't cross your mind, to prepare for. So I'm also going to be doing a video soon on what to pack in your hospital bag. So many people overpack, like it's ridiculous. There's certain things that you want to make sure that you have. There's certain things that, you just leave it at home, or else you're just going to, like, your husband's going to be lugging around all these bags and all these, like, you don't want him doing that. Okay. So yeah, so I've got a bunch of different like postpartum videos that'll be coming up. And then also I'm going to tell you all about my C-section experience with my son, preeclampsia, all those things that I went through with him, and SPD. I had SPD during my pregnancy with my third child. It was basically my pelvis separated too far during the pregnancy, and that was extremely painful. So I'm going to talk about that. Just want to give you guys a bunch of different like tips and tricks dealing with pregnancy, postpartum, like the healing process and everything for vaginal as well as C-section deliveries. Okay, well, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope that I've helped you make a decision if you're on the fence about that. And let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you want me to cover, and I will. All right, thanks so much for watching. Bye.